welcome to this current episode of Become a Competent Biblical Counselor. I'm Dr. Dave Jones, and today's episode is entitled, I Heard It on the News. And I want to make reference to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, for it says, We dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise. So today it's all about the news. I remember growing up as a little boy that every Monday through Friday evening at 6:30, my dad would sit down in front of the TV and watch the news. And back then, which is a long time ago, some of you may even recognize these people, Chet Huntley, David Brinkley, Walter Cronkite, they had the news. And they'd sit down and they would tell us the news. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy, no opinions, just the news. And that's all we needed, because now we're up to speed on what is important, or so we thought at the time. But back then we not only had the TV news, we also had newspapers. Now some of you may still have newspapers, but a lot of us have lost that source or that medium of information. I remember as a teenager, I delivered newspapers. I delivered a newspaper in the morning, and I delivered it in the afternoon. That was the culture at the time. That was what we all expected, and we looked forward to getting the news to find out what was going on. But now news has changed. Journalism has changed. We not only continue to have the electronic news, but we have it all day long. I was talking to a lady walking her dog the other day in our neighborhood, and I said, so how's Jim doing, her husband? She says, oh, he's doing fine. I said, well, what's he up to? She says, well, he's watching the news. I said, really? He doesn't walk the dog with you? She says, nope, he watches the news. I said, well, how much does he watch? She says, he watches the news all day long. I said, all day long? That's all he does? Yep, he sits in his recliner, he watches the news all day long. I said, what is he getting out of that? Is he getting new news that the rest of us don't know about? Is he concerned about getting the news first? What's up with that? He just wants to watch the news all day long. Then I know another man who loves to engage people, and he loves to talk and talk and talk. He's retired, but he loves to talk politics. And there's an old saying that my dad used to use when we were growing up. He used to say, don't bother me with facts. My mind is made up. Well, this man is of that opinion. Don't talk to me about politics that I don't agree with, because my mind is already made up. And he will argue and argue and argue until he has beat you down to a pulp, trying to convince you of the fact that his slant on politics is right and yours is not. So there are two examples of how people are choosing to spend their time on this earth and in living their days in such a different manner. Oh, and one thing I forgot to tell you, that the man who sits and watches TV all day, he is not on social media. He gets all of his news from the one network that he watches all day long, whereas the other man who likes to talk politics all day long gets all of his news information from social media. So for those of you who are learning how to become a competent biblical counselor, this is an exercise for you to determine how would you handle individual situations like this if the wife of the first example came to you and said, I'm concerned about my husband watching TV all day long. What would you tell her? Or the man who wants to argue politics as a result of what he's learned from social media. What would you do? How would you help these people if they came to you for assistance? You're going to find that some people who come to you totally stressed out within their world, the world that they have created, a world that hasn't just happened upon them that they have to respond to, but the world that they have created that they are now having a difficult time dealing with and controlling. For example, when you open your Facebook feed, you see a whir of things for you to look at. Your friends, their photos, some news stories, and you naively thought that these things appeared simply in the order in which the friends had posted them. You're seeing your friend's photo because he just put it up, or you think that your aunt's status update comes next because she posted it before the man who put the photo up, Or maybe you thought they were selected randomly. In fact, you come to learn over the years that we all become more informed about these questions, that what you see is selected for you according to an algorithm. When Facebook and all others decide what you see in your news feed, there are many thousands of things they could show you. So they have written a piece of code to automatically decide what you will see. There's all sorts of algorithms they could use, ways they could decide what you should see and the order in which you should see them. They could have an algorithm designed to show you things that make you feel happy. They could have an algorithm designed to show you things that make you feel sad. They could have an algorithm to show you things that your friends are talking about the most. The list of potential algorithms is long. Unfortunately, there's a quirk of human behavior. On average, we will stare at something negative and outrageous for a long period of time. Then we will stare at something positive and calm. We will stare at a car crash longer than we'll stare at a person handing out flowers by the side of the road, even though the flowers will give you a lot more pleasure than the mangled bodies in the crash. Scientists have been proving this effect in different contexts for a long time. If they showed you a photo of a crowd and some of the people in it were happy and some angry, you would instinctively pick out the angry faces first. Even 10-week-old babies respond differently to angry faces. This has been shown about in psychology for years and is based on a broad body of evidence. It's called negativity bias. Furthermore, if enough people are spending enough of their time being angered, that starts to change the culture. It turns hate into habit. And these sites also make you feel that you are surrounded by other people's anger. There is evidence that these social media sites are now severely harming our ability to come together as a society, to identify our problems, and to find solutions in ways like this. They are damaging not just our attention as individuals, but our collective attention. At the moment, false claims are spread on social media far faster than the truth because of the algorithms that spread outraging material faster and farther. A study by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology found that fake news travels 6 times faster on social media than real news. And during the 2016 U.S. presidential elections, flat-out falsehood social media outperformed all the top stories on 19 mainstream news sites put together. As a result, we are being pushed all the time to pay attention to nonsense, things that just aren't so. As a result, our society won't just feel more dangerous, it will actually be more dangerous. What we are seeing is the collective downgrading of humans and the upgrading of machines. We are becoming less rational, less intelligent, less focused, and less tolerant. And folks, don't assume that I am talking about the non-Christian world. I'm not. I'm talking about the church community as well. We actually have people sitting in our pews that go to church every Sunday and any other time throughout the week that are exhibiting these same kind of behaviors based upon their involvement not only in the electronic news, but in the social media news as well. Oh, and to bring you further up to date, the 2 men that I spoke of earlier in this episode were both Christians. And this is how they choose to spend their time and to respond and interact with other people. But there is hope in reaching people with these kind of attitudes, because they're not only hurting the cause of Christ, they're hurting their bodies and their relationships with other people, and especially their families, and they're also bringing harm to their bodies. The witnessing opportunities that they exhibit have no effect at all other than being very negative. The amount of stress that they place upon their families and having to deal with their outbursts or total inactivity is very unfortunate, and what they may be doing or maybe not doing to their physical bodies could be very, very stressful. I've had the unfortunate or maybe fortunate opportunity to deal with both of these men, and the opportunity that I have presents itself in the fact that I would say, you're hurting your cause of Christ when you behave like this. You've announced to people long ago who know you that you are a follower of Christ, that you are a churchgoer. So people automatically assume that you're a certain kind of a person, and you've just negated that entire reputation that you have to something that you really don't want to brag about. So if somebody wants to change this kind of behavior, this amount of news that they're watching electronically or social media, what do you tell them to do? Well, what I've suggested in the past with people is to determine how much are they involved in their news habits. How often do they watch? How long do they communicate or listen? To whom are they putting a lot of their trust in as far as who they're listening to? Maybe there could be a continuation of what they're doing to satisfy their internal desires to gather news, but maybe they don't need to be doing it so much. Maybe they need to understand, too, that a lot of times the news that is being imparted is not news. Most of the time, a lot of the time, it's opinion. The opinion of the one who's speaking on the microphone, the opinion from someone who is responding on social media, it's their opinion. And with respect to electronic media, is it the network that you've been listening to for 20 or 30 years and you trust them? Well, things were different 20 and 30 years ago with CBS and NBC and ABC. Maybe there should be a specific amount of time that you spend on these news outlets and replace that time with things that are more productive and useful. And I think it's important to understand that the emphasis upon these two examples that I gave you, in addition to many, many hundreds and thousands of other people in the world going through the same thing who are Christians, it's a horizontal influence, looking at life from what the world is doing and what the world is telling you that you should think and what you should do and how you should act and how you should live your life. Instead of looking at life from the vertical point of view, what does God want me to do about this? Why am I getting so concerned about what's happening in the world when God's in control? Why am I going to get so angry about what's happening with the politicians and the laws that are being made? God's in control. Look at life from God's point of view and not from your neighbor's point of view. Anyway, there were some thoughts for you. You might get some counseling from time to time, whether it's on the phone or in person from somebody who's saying, they tell you some things that they're familiar with and they're giving an opinion on, and you could just say, so where did you get this information? If they say, I got it on the news, now you'll know what to do and questions to ask, and listen to them carefully when they show you that they are living life from the horizontal. I hope that helps, and just be sensitive to hearing it on the news. Have a great day.